What is going on, traders? Few things to talk about. It's probably going to be a quick video because I don't want to go too deep into things due to the fact that we do have some very important news coming in tonight. We have the Japan's rate decision coming in tonight, and so I do think that's going to play a pretty big role in what direction the market goes, whether it continues to the upside or to the downside. So we're going to talk about it. Before we start, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So in the last two videos, I was anticipating a dip before we headed to all-time highs. I said this multiple times. I even marked it out and said that I do think we're going to see some type of drop before we continue to head higher. So overall, I still anticipated that we were going to head towards all-time highs, but I was wrong about getting a dip. And so, feel free, go crazy in the comments. But yes, I was wrong about a dip before heading towards all-time highs. We have officially made new highs on the SPY. We've broken above the Jerome Powell level that I've talked about in multiple videos. And all I really wanted for you guys was just to be cautious in this area. I wasn't calling for a top. Someone said I was calling for a top. I never once used the word top, so that's crazy. Someone was saying I was calling for a crash. I was calling for a market correction. I never said any of those things. All I wanted, or all I was anticipating, was some type of dip before we head higher. So hopefully that was understood. If it wasn't, let me know. Pretty crazy that people are saying that I called for a top, but I never even said that. So what I will say is that this move is very annoying. Okay, very annoying. And it's not me trying to be a perma bear or anything like that. I think you as a trader should look at this move and realize that it's kind of scary. We're constantly gapping up over and over. We're just gapping up, gapping up, gapping up. And my issue with this move is that you're just not seeing much of a reaction from the Mag 7. You're not seeing really any of the Mag 7 make new highs. SPY is making new highs. Triple Qs is pumping, but you're not seeing Tesla make new highs. You're not seeing Apple make new highs. Apple is actually not even close to new highs anymore. You're not even seeing Nvidia break its previous highs. And you're seeing a lot of these stocks or Mag 7 just drop while the SPY is pumping and the Qs is pumping. Now, it can be a delayed reaction, right? You can see the stocks eventually catch up with the SPY and triple Qs. That's very much possible. And maybe they're just waiting on specific news. Maybe they're waiting on the news to come in tonight, or maybe they're waiting on some other news, maybe the FOMC meeting that's happening next week. But regardless, this really bothers me because you're just pumping without consequences. And what I mean by that is that usually when you pump, you build structures, right? You just continue, you see a breakout, you build a structure, you break out some more, you build another structure, you break out some more. But right now, we're, I guess, for lack of better wording, melting up. But I wouldn't even consider this a melt up because you're not seeing that across the market. IWM is still stagnant. Now, IWM does wait specifically on news or move specifically off news. That's fine, but you're not seeing much of a reaction across the board. You're not seeing new highs across the board. And I will really like to see that for me to be very comfortable with this pump to the upside. I mean, we're looking at the IWM and it's just sitting here, right? It is pretty much retesting this trend, it's consolidating under this trend. This is the daily time frame, by the way, but it's not doing much. Now, one can argue that maybe, just maybe, IWM is waiting for one more drop before we maybe create some type of inverse head and shoulders pattern here. Let me actually mark it out for you guys, just in case. And you form some type of inverse head and shoulders pattern. So you'll have your, shoulder here, you'll have your head here, and then maybe, just maybe, if you can get like maybe a better dip towards the downside, you start forming another shoulder around this gap field around 220. Very much possible, but again, you're just not seeing that reaction across the board. Triple Qs is great, fine. It broke above this, bull flag or whatever. You got your flagpole here, right? And then you have this, bull flag, and you're breaking above it. That's great and all, but again, we're very illiquid towards the downside, and we're just not building any structure. We're just pumping without consequences. And so it just makes me very uneasy about this move. Now, by all means, enjoy the upside. Again, didn't doubt that we are going to see all-time highs within this pump. I think it goes without saying. I think it made sense once we got and held above 602 and 604. We talked about these levels in the past, that we were going to see all-time highs. We got above 529. We talked about that level on the triple Qs. And then I said chances are we're going to head towards previous highs and all-time highs, right? But right now, again, just a weird move, right? And so we look at the NQ, and I will say NQ does have more room to the upside. I do think NQ can see 22,300. We talked about this before, when I said if NQ can get above 22,100, which is not there yet, but it is very much possible at this point that you see a move towards 22,100. You broke above 22K. You want to see 22K hold, but highest I'm looking at least for the short term, is 22,300. And then if we start getting into this territory right here, we can start heading towards crazy levels such as 23,000 on the NQ. We're not there yet, but it's definitely something that can be on the table for the future, depending on how things go within this range right here. But again, just pumping without consequences. And so we look at the ES. I told you guys about 6120. You want to close above that level for us to head higher. And so right now we're in this zone. We're pretty much in this zone. And so we want to see a breakout of 6155, 6160, give or take, and then we can continue to head higher. But again, very liquid towards the downside, and we're just pumping without consequences. And so one main thing I used to tell you guys all the time is that you want to see an elevator down and staircase up when it comes to the market. When you start seeing an elevator up, that's when things get concerning. It's great, sure, you trade it, it's great and all, but you really want to see, some type of structure here, right? I mean, we go to the 4 hour time frame, and sure, you're building structure, but overall, I mean, you're just pumping and pumping and pumping. And the issue here is that you're just leaving a lot of fair value gaps to the downside. You have like a massive fair value gap here at around 5,900 on the ES. So there's a massive fair value gap here. You broke out of this fair value gap, or you broke above this fair value gap. And I tell you guys, anytime you break above a fair value gap, that is signs of a continuation to the upside. And so you retested the fair value gap, and now you're continuing to head further up to the upside. But again, you're pumping without real consequences. I mean, look here. Look how many bullish candles are here versus bearish candles. Bulls are just pumping and pumping and pumping. Cool. Great. But I just really want to see that reaction across the board, and we're just not getting that. We look at Bitcoin. I don't know what to make of this. This is insane. Okay, Bitcoin is just trading in this area. Now, I still think as long as Bitcoin stays above 103K, I think you're pretty safe. Your main level that you really want to see Bitcoin hold and stay above is 99K. We're not close to that, but as volatile as Bitcoin is, it can make that happen very fast, right? But as long as we stay above 103K, I think Bitcoin can head much higher. Highest I'm looking at least for short term, is about 112K this year. I do think Bitcoin can see 130K, especially with Trump in office. I think anyone can predict that. I don't think that's a hard thing to predict, or anything that's genius level or anything like that. So I will say that much. You break about below 99K, it can get very ugly for Bitcoin. But again, I'm just not anticipating that right now. We'll have to wait and see. And so we look at some of the Mag 7. We look at Apple. Now, Apple is starting to show life. I've been telling you guys about Apple for quite some time. I mean, this thing has been oversold, right? It's oversold. It's been pumping. I mean, not pumping. It's been dropping to the downside. You're leaving a lot of fair value gaps to the upside. You have this massive, massive fair value gap all the way at around between 233 and 240. And so if you break above 233 on Apple, you can definitely start seeing a move towards 238, 240, pretty much mitigate this fair value gap. And then we'll have to see what happens from there. But yeah, Apple is showing signs of life. And what I would like to see from Apple is a move above 224. It attempted to do that today, but it just could not hold. Bear stepped in once again, pretty much ruined everybody's dream. We had it as high as about 227 on Apple. But yeah, you just want to see some type of reaction across the board. I mean, you look at Tesla, right? Tesla is just still dropping. It's still dropping, but it's consolidating within this range. And, this is pretty ugly, right? It's just not showing much. Now, what I will say is that bears are weakening here, so you can start seeing a rollover back towards the upside. But yeah, Tesla, you're just seeing Tesla drop. Again, as long as Tesla holds 410, like we said in the last video, you're pretty safe, okay? What I really want to see Tesla hold is 400. As long as it stays above 400, I think it's very much possible that Tesla can head much higher. 430 is your key level. You get above 430, you head to 440. You get above 440, 500 is officially on the table for Tesla. We'll talk about that if we ever get there. And so you look at Nvidia. Now, What I will say about Nvidia is that I don't think it's done pumping. I will say that much. This area right here, very illiquid, guys. Very, very illiquid. We are still in this very illiquid area. If we would have headed back to the low 140s, then yeah, then we can start talking about, Nvidia seeing more downside. But as long as we stay in this very illiquid range, I do think Nvidia does have more potential to the upside. It's just a matter of when. I imagine we probably won't see much more from it until maybe next week. And right now I'm looking at about 155. 160 is not too much to ask for. Between 160 and 163, I think is very much possible for Nvidia. It's just a matter of when. My guess is by the end of the month. So that's what I'm looking at for Nvidia. And then we look at names like Microsoft. Microsoft is doing great, right? We took profit on our 460 calls on Microsoft. We took profit. We got in at around 417 in the Discord, and then we took profit at around 440, 435, between that range. So yeah, congratulations, Discord members. I do think Microsoft is going to continue to pump. 460 is definitely a target for Microsoft. You're very illiquid here, all the way towards the 455. If you're wondering why I take profit, I always look to take profit at 40% gains. It helps me to be disciplined. It helps Discord members be disciplined. You got some that's greedy and they do their own thing. By all means, that's them. But it helps to create discipline and just take profit when you see it. So I always take profit at 40%. We were well above 40% on Microsoft. So yeah, took profit on 40%. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking at for Microsoft. So, you got Microsoft pumping. That's great. You got Meta pumping. That's great. Meta just continues to pump, right? And so if we are going to continue to see upside, and is within this rising wedge pattern, right? And so I really want to see if Meta does continue to pump within this rising wedge, you can head as high as about 670, 680. It does have earnings next week. So I think that's going to be very, very interesting, especially if we hit the top of this rising wedge prior to its earnings. But yeah, again, this move is great. You're seeing some names pumping, you're seeing some names dumping, and I just would like to see, new highs formed across the board, but you're just not getting that with the Mag 7. The only one that's really benefiting from this so far is the SPY. Bitcoin, it made new highs, sure, but you would think that Bitcoin, if is a leading indicator, that it will pump much higher than 109K, and you're just not getting that. And so again, like I said, you do have the Japan rate news tonight, rate decision tonight. Very much can change things. Do I think it's going to change much? No, I think the market is more prepared for it. I think compared to last time, it was just a black swan event. This time, I think the market is going to be more prepared for it. Can we get a dip from that news if it just turns out bad? Sure. Am I expecting like a crash or a top, like some of you are saying, like I'm calling a top and everything? Am I expecting something like this or anything like that? No. I just think it's going to be short lived, and then we just continue to head higher towards those targets I was talking about. 614. Um, I mean, if you roll, okay. So one thing I will say, we rolled back into this rising channel, right? I think that's a crazy sign. Okay, if we and I always tell you guys, anytime we roll back into a pattern, chances are we're going to continue in that direction. And so far, we are heading in that direction, right? We're continuing in that direction, and it's looking good, right? If you're heading towards the top of this, rising channel, you can see a move all the way to 630 on the spot. Now, what that means for the triple Qs, I don't know. But what I will say is that if the triple Qs does decide to follow, and if we're talking about a measured move for the triple Qs based on this bull flag, right? So all you do is measure the open and the close of the bull flag. You drag it to the breaking point, and you can start seeing a move all the way to about 542, 543 on the triple Q. So that's really all I have, guys. I guess the point in this video is just be cautious, pay attention to the news tonight. Our next FOMC meeting is next week, next Wednesday, January 29th. I don't anticipate that news will come in good. We'll have to wait and see. I can be wrong there, but I just think the market is pumping into that news, and then we'll have to wait and see what happens. The VIX is still trading within this range. It hasn't moved from this area. It's just, bouncing back and forth. It's consolidating here. And so that's another thing that, should be concerning. The VIX has filled this gap, but it's not doing anything else. The SPY is the SPY is pumping and pumping. You have triple Qs pumping, but the VIX is just sitting here, right? And the VIX can be waiting on that news tonight, or it's waiting on some other news as well. But some things you just really want to take into consideration. And again, this move is very, very annoying. Why? Because they're just it's not providing any buying opportunities across the market, at least for me. Okay, at least the levels that I would like to see for a lot of these stocks. When you're seeing the SPY pump and pump, it's really hard to buy into any of the Mag 7 or any, big names because you're constantly seeing the SPY pump over and over, and it's just not making you or it's not making me comfortable to buy any dips, right? Because if you have Nvidia, not even Nvidia, but if you have Tesla just dumping and dumping while the SPY is pumping, does that mean that Tesla is having a delayed reaction and then eventually pumps with the SPY and triple Qs? Or is Tesla waiting on the SPY to get done making its move or triple Qs to get done making this move, and then you just see a complete dump across the board with the SPY triple Qs, and Tesla starts following along. So that's why it's really uncomfortable when you're seeing the SPY just gap up over and over, but you're not seeing that massive reaction that you really, really want to get, that nostalgia effect across the board. It just doesn't make you comfortable with that, right? So it's great that we broke new highs on the SPY. I'm not against it at all. I never was against it. But it's just scary. Okay, it's just scary. It's something to look out for. I think February and March are going to be very, very interesting across the market. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. I really appreciate a lot of you. You guys are just extremely supportive, man. Really appreciate you. I appreciate the trolls too. You give me views, you give me subscriptions, and all that fun stuff. So I'm all for it, man. Channel is not. I mean, I did not expect the channel to go from 500 to 5K within 3 months. That's insane. So, hopefully, we can get 10K this year. Really appreciate you guys. Community tab. So the community tab, guys. So for AAL earnings, all right. So I mean, I post gems in the community tab. I posted about Netflix earnings heading to 980. Hopefully you guys are keeping up and following along in the community tab. Turn your notifications on because I post free information here. You do not have to pay for this information. AAL earnings in the morning. This was this morning. Our Discord bot alerted whales doing 17.5 puts for February 21st, with AAL currently at monthly supply and demand zone and never retesting the falling wedge. Whales could be setting up for a move to 14.5. Something to watch. And then today, AAL reported their earnings and they headed as low as about 16.5, 16. So, like discussed in our last post, AAL takes a dive to 16.5. Congrats, Intel. That's two earnings called for you. Again, this information is free. And then, I go into a little tangent because some guy deleted his comment calling me a clown and saying AAL is not going to tank for its earnings. And I thought that was pretty funny. So, yeah, follow me on the community tab, guys. I try to post. I don't post like crazy there because I have a Discord to run, but I do post a few gems here and there. I think posting two earnings wins in a row is pretty solid. So you don't have to pay for it or anything like that. If you do decide to buy the membership, I'd never. When you get monetized, and this is just me being transparent, when you get monetized, YouTube kind of requires you to make a membership type of thing. So you don't have to buy it, guys. I just have to figure out how I'm gonna handle memberships. Maybe I just post like one or two trades every week or something like that. It won't be as consistent as Discord members, but maybe like one, two trades or something like that for those who sign up for the membership. It's only like $3 a month. But yeah, I don't anticipate anybody joining that at all. It was just something I had to make. But other than that, I really do appreciate the people that did join the membership. I hope to provide you value. And you let me know what you guys would like to see in the memberships area. Because I have no clue what to do with that. Okay, I post free information here. I'm not here for money or anything like that. I'm not greedy or anything like that. But other than that, with that being said, Discord link is in the description below. And until the next video, traders, you have you a good one.